The salvage ship Wandering Fortune drifted through the Kepler Reach like a metal insect searching for scraps. Captain Jara Okonkwo stood at the bridge, her forearms working different control panels at once. She was Quellan, a species known for their patience and love of ancient things. Today, that patience would change everything, Captain. I'm reading something strange, said her scanner operator, a young Quellan named Presh. There's a massive energy signature behind that asteroid cluster. It's old. Really old, Jara's eyes narrowed. In 30 years of salvage work, she had learned to trust strange readings. Strange meant valuable. Strange meant discovery. She adjusted their course with two hands while the other two prepared the scanning equipment. What emerged from behind the asteroids made Jara's breath catch in her throat. The ship was enormous, easily 5 kilometers long. Its hull was dark and covered in centuries of space dust, but the design was unmistakable. Human. Ancient human. By the void, whispered Marcus Chen from his station. He was the only human on Jara's crew, a historian who had spent his entire life searching for traces of lost Earth. His hands shook as he brought up the identification protocols. Captain, that's a colony ship. From the Silent Exodus era, that makes it at least 800 years old. The Silent Exodus was legend among humans. When Earth had died, they said, thousands of colony ships had scattered into the galaxy. Most were lost. Only one colony, New Terra, had survived to join the Galactic Council 200 years ago. Humanity was considered a young species, nearly extinct before they even reached the stars. But this ship proved something else. Humanity had been out here for much longer than anyone knew. Can we board it? Jara asked. Marcus was already running diagnostics. There's still power in some sections. Minimal, but it's there. That shouldn't be possible after 8 centuries. Jara made her decision quickly. Prep the boarding tube. Presh, you're with me. Marcus, you're definitely coming. Bring your archaeological kit. If there's anything that tells us where Earth was, I want it found. The boarding process took 2 hours. The ancient airlocks were stubborn, their mechanisms worn but still functional. When they finally entered the ship, their lights cut through darkness that had lasted for centuries. The corridor walls were covered in faded signs written in Old English. Marcus translated as they walked. This is the Prometheus Dawn, he said, his voice filled with wonder. She was carrying 15,000 colonists. There were children on this ship, Jara. Families hoping for a new world. They found the bodies in the cryo bays, thousands of them still frozen in their pods. The power had failed long ago, but the cold of space had preserved them. Marcus said a quiet prayer in Mandarin, something his grandmother had taught him. These were his ancestors in a way, the cousins of cousins lost to time. But the ship held more than bodies. In the central command deck, they found it. The core was still active, a crystalline sphere pulsing with faint blue light. Marcus approached it carefully, his scanner in hand. This is military-grade technology, he said. Why would a civilian colony ship have military AI? Jara was about to answer when the sphere suddenly blazed with light. The entire command deck hummed to life. Screens flickered on, showing star maps and data streams that moved too fast to read. And then a voice spoke, cold and precise, Sentinel-7 online, running defensive protocols. Scanning for Devourer presence. The 3 salvagers froze. Marcus stepped forward slowly. Sentinel-7, this is Marcus Chen. We're not hostile. We're here to... Species unknown, the AI interrupted. Biological signatures do not match human or known enemy profiles. Classification, potential hostiles. Initiating security measures, the deck shuddered. Somewhere deep in the ship, systems that had been dormant for 800 years began to wake. Jara grabbed Marcus's arm with 2 hands while her other 2 worked her communicator. We need to leave, now. But Marcus pulled away. Wait, Sentinel, I am human. Descendant of Earth, New Terra colony. We're your people. There was a pause. The AI seemed to process this information. New Terra colony not in database. Earth status unknown. Last contact with command. 812 years, 4 months, 17 days. Emergency protocols remain active. Broadcasting distress signal to Stormbringer fleet. All human assets to respond. What's the Stormbringer fleet? Jara asked. Marcus's face had gone pale. I don't know. It's not in any historical record I've ever seen. The ship shuddered again, more violently this time. Sentinel-7 spoke once more, and this time there was something almost emotional in its artificial voice. Signal sent. They will come. The Devourers will not claim this galaxy. Humanity will stand. Humanity will fight. Jara made the decision that saved their lives. She grabbed Marcus and ran, Presh right behind them. They barely made it back to the Wandering Fortune before the ancient ship's defenses activated fully. As they pulled away, they watched the Prometheus dawn light up like a star. Ancient weapons tracking their escape, but not firing. Back on the bridge, Marcus collapsed into his chair. "What have we done?" Jara was already plotting a course to the nearest communication relay. The Galactic Council needed to know about this. But even as she worked, a chill ran down her spine. Sentinel had sent a signal. Somewhere in the vast darkness of space, something had received it. On the edge of known space, in a region that no living being had visited in 800 years, ancient machines began to stir. They had been waiting. They had been sleeping. They had been built for a single purpose: to defend humanity against an enemy that should have been extinct. The Stormbringers were waking up, and the galaxy had no idea what was coming. 3 days after the Prometheus dawn awakened, the first Stormbringer appeared in neutral space. It was massive beyond comprehension, a warship 4 kilometers long with weapons that made modern military vessels look like toys. It simply materialized its jump drives using technology that shouldn't exist. The pirate fleet that had been raiding trade routes in that sector opened fire immediately. It was the last mistake they ever made. The Stormbringer, designated Tempest's Fury, did not send warnings. It did not attempt communication. It simply erased the pirates from existence with beams of purple energy that tore through shields and hulls like they were paper. The entire engagement lasted 47 seconds. Then the Tempest's Fury went silent, drifting in space like a waiting predator. The news reached New Terra within hours. Ambassador Keiko Tanaka stood in her office, watching the footage on repeat. Her hands clenched so tight her knuckles were white. She had been humanity's voice in the Galactic Council for 12 years. She had fought to prove that humans were peaceful, cooperative, trustworthy. And now this ancient nightmare had awakened to undo everything. Her communicator buzzed. It was the council president, a massive being named Thorkal from a species that looked like walking crystals. "Ambassador Tanaka, you will come to the council chambers immediately. You will explain what we have just witnessed. You will explain why humanity has hidden weapons of mass destruction in our space. You will explain why we should not consider this an act of war." Keiko closed her eyes for a moment. Then she straightened her jacket and walked out. She would face them. She had no choice. The council chambers were in chaos when she arrived. Representatives from all 12 major species were shouting at each other. Some demanded immediate military action against human territories. Others wanted answers first. A few, like Jara's people, the Quellans, were calling for calm and investigation. Keiko walked to the center platform and waited for silence. It took several minutes. "I will not lie to you," she began, her voice steady despite her fear. "Until 3 days ago, I did not know the Stormbringers existed. Modern humanity did not know. We are as shocked as you are." "Then explain," Thorkal said, his crystalline form refracting the chamber's lights into rainbow patterns. "Explain how a human warship can appear in our space without your knowledge." Keiko brought up a holographic display. It showed Earth ancient and blue, then hundreds of ships leaving it. 800 years ago, humanity faced extinction. We don't know what happened to Earth. Our records from that time are fragmented, almost destroyed. What we know is this: thousands of colony ships were launched. Most were lost. New Terra was founded by one ship, just one. We thought we were all that remained. She changed the image. Now it showed the Prometheus dawn. This ship proves we were wrong, and it proves something else. Those colony ships weren't all civilian. Some carried weapons. Some carried military AI. Some carried manufacturing facilities designed for war. A council member from the insectoid krill species clicked her mandibles. War against whom? What enemy required such weapons? Keiko pulled up another image. The silence that followed was absolute. The image showed a creature, if it could be called that. It was biomechanical, part living tissue and part machine. It had too many limbs, too many eyes, all arranged in patterns that hurt to look at. This is a devourer. According to the AI on the Prometheus dawn, they were humanity's enemy 800 years ago. They were a hive mind species that consumed other civilizations. The Stormbringers were built to fight them. Were? Another council member asked. Past tense? We thought they were extinct, Keiko said. We thought they were propaganda, stories told to scare children. But the AI Sentinel-7 insists they survived. It insists they're still out there. On New Terra, Marcus Chen was having the same conversation with military officials and scientists. He had returned home as fast as possible, bringing every piece of data they had recovered from the Prometheus dawn. Now he stood in a secured laboratory, watching as experts tried to make sense of what they had found. The Stormbringers operate independently, Marcus explained, showing them the data streams. Sentinel-7 activated them with a distress call. They're responding to protocols that were written before New Terra even existed. We don't control them. We can't control them. They're following their original mission: defend humanity and destroy Devourers. A general named Park leaned forward. But there are no Devourers. Haven't been for centuries, if they ever existed at all. So what happens when these Stormbringers realize there's no enemy? Do they just turn off? Marcus shook his head. I don't know. But there's something else. Something that worries me more. He brought up a new file. Sentinel said something before we left. It said the Devourers evolved. Not past tense. Present tense. It thinks they're still out there, and it thinks they've changed into something new. Across the galaxy, more Stormbringers were activating. They appeared in sectors where ancient human installations had been buried and forgotten. Some were found by archaeologists who barely escaped with their lives. Others simply appeared, their sensors sweeping space for threats that might not exist anymore. The Galactic Council was receiving reports every hour. Panic was spreading. Jara Okonkwo watched all of this from her ship still in the Kepler Reach. She couldn't leave. Something about Sentinel's words haunted her. She had started researching, pulling up old files from her people's history. The Quellans kept excellent records going back 2,000 years. And in those records, she found something impossible. 900 years ago, the Quellan homeworld had been attacked by an unknown enemy. The enemy had been biological, adaptive, horrifying. They had nearly wiped out her species. And then, according to the records, something had come to help. The records called them the Metal Guardians. They had appeared from nowhere, fought the biological enemy, and disappeared just as mysteriously. Shara brought up an ancient image from her people's archives. It was crude, drawn by survivors of the attack, but the shape was unmistakable. It was a Stormbringer. She opened a communication line to Marcus. When his face appeared on the screen, she could see he hadn't slept in days. Marcus, I need you to listen to me very carefully. The Stormbringers have been active before. They saved my people, which means Sentinel might be right. The Devourers might not be extinct after all. Marcus stared at her. Then he started pulling up files frantically. If you're right, if they're still out there somewhere, then we have a bigger problem. The Council is talking about destroying the Stormbringers before they cause more damage. But if those ships are the only thing that can fight the Devourers... He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't have to. They both understood. Humanity had built monsters to fight monsters, and now the galaxy had to choose between the devil they could see and the one they couldn't. Marcus and Jara's ship jumped into the dead zone 6 days after the first Stormbringer appeared. The dead zones were regions of space where nothing lived, where planets were barren and gray, where even light seemed dimmer. These were the ancient battlefields, places where wars had been fought so long ago that most species had forgotten why they were forbidden. But Marcus and Jara hadn't forgotten. They were hunting for proof. If the Devourers were real, if they had really fought humanity 800 years ago, then evidence would be here. Evidence the Galactic Council couldn't deny. I'm reading debris fields, Jara said, her forearms working the scanners. Lots of them. Metal compositions match human ship designs from the Exodus era. Marcus, there was a battle here, a big one. They flew through clouds of ancient wreckage, pieces of ships, some human, some made from materials they didn't recognize. Biological materials mixed with metal, fused together in ways that shouldn't be possible. Marcus suited up and went outside in a small exploration pod to collect samples. What he found made his blood run cold. The alien metal was still active even after 8 centuries. It tried to bond with his collection tools, tried to merge with them. He had to cut it free with a laser torch. Jara, this stuff is alive, or it was. It's like it's both machine and organism at the same time. That matches the description Sentinel gave us about Devourers, Jara replied. Biomechanical, adaptive. They consumed technology and biology both, used it to evolve themselves. While they explored, the political situation in the galaxy was getting worse. The Galactic Council had split into 3 factions. The largest faction, led by the Sovereign Collective, wanted to destroy all Stormbringers immediately. They had dispatched Admiral Krell Varsus with a battle fleet to engage and disable the Tempest's fury, which still waited in neutral space. The second faction, smaller but vocal, wanted to study the Stormbringers. They saw an opportunity to understand military technology far beyond their own. The Quellans led this group, arguing that destroying knowledge was never the answer. The third faction, which included Ambassador Keiko and a few others, wanted to wait. They wanted proof before taking action, but they were losing the political battle. Fear was stronger than patience. Admiral Krell Varsus was not a patient being. He was Krill, the insectoid species that valued efficiency and direct action. When his fleet of 20 warships surrounded the Tempest's fury, he opened communication channels and broadcast a simple message. Human vessel, you are ordered to power down all weapons and prepare to be boarded. Failure to comply will result in your destruction. The Stormbringer did not respond. It simply hung in space, its dark hull reflecting the light of nearby stars. Krell waited exactly 60 seconds as protocol required. Then he gave the order to fire. His fleet unleashed everything they had. Plasma cannons, missile batteries, electromagnetic pulses. The space around the Tempest's fury lit up with explosions and energy beams. When the light cleared, they expected to see a damaged ship, systems failing, ready to be captured. Instead, the Tempest's fury was completely undamaged. Its shields hadn't even flickered, and now it was moving. What happened next was recorded by every ship in Krell's fleet and transmitted across the galaxy. The Stormbringer didn't just fight back. It demonstrated what 800 years of human military engineering had been capable of creating. Purple energy beams lanced out, and each beam cut through a ship's shields like they weren't there. The beams didn't explode the ships. They simply disintegrated them, breaking them down into their component atoms. In 30 seconds, Admiral Krell lost half his fleet. In 60 seconds, he was running. The Tempest's fury didn't pursue. It simply returned to its position and went silent again. But the message was clear. The Stormbringers could not be threatened. The footage reached Marcus and Jara in the dead zones. Marcus watched it 3 times, his face growing paler with each viewing. That's not just military technology. That's something else. Something I've never seen before. Your ancestors built that, Jara said quietly. 800 years ago, humans were capable of this. What happened? Why did you forget? Why did New Terra start from nothing? Marcus didn't have answers, but he was starting to form a theory and it terrified him. What if humanity didn't just forget? What if we were forced to forget? What if something made us start over? They continued their exploration of the dead zones and found something that confirmed Jara's research. On a dead planet's surface, they discovered ruins. Not human ruins, something else. Buildings that curved in non-Euclidean ways, doorways that were the wrong size, architecture that seemed to shift when you weren't looking directly at it. And in the center of the ruins, they found a chamber. The chamber was empty except for a single object, a crystalline sphere similar to the one that housed Sentinel-7, but larger and darker. Marcus approached it carefully with every scanner he had running. This is a Devourer data storage unit. It's dormant, but it still has power. If I can activate it, we might be able to learn what really happened 800 years ago. Is that safe? Jara asked. Probably not, Marcus admitted. But we need to know. The Council is going to destroy the Stormbringers. If we can't prove the Devourers were real, if we can't prove they might still be a threat, then humanity loses the only weapons that can protect us. He connected his portable computer to the sphere. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the sphere pulsed with red light and data began flowing. But this wasn't normal data. This was something alive, something conscious. Marcus's computer screen filled with images, worlds being consumed, species being absorbed, and at the center of it all, a hive mind that thought of biological beings as nothing more than resources to be harvested. But there was more. Marcus saw images from near the end of the war. The Devourers were losing, being pushed back by human Stormbringers and their allies. And then the images showed something impossible. The Devourers changing, adapting in a new way. They were learning to hide, learning to disguise themselves. The final image showed a Devourer cell entering a body, merging with it, controlling it from the inside while looking completely normal on the outside. By all the stars, Jara whispered. They learned to infiltrate. They learned to look like other species. Marcus pulled back from the sphere, his hands shaking. We need to get this data to the Council. Right now. Because if the Devourers survived, if they learned to hide inside other species, then they could be anywhere. They could be anyone. On New Terra, Ambassador Keiko received Marcus's transmission and immediately called for an emergency council session. But when she arrived at the chambers, something felt wrong. The other ambassadors were behaving strangely. Some seemed distracted, their responses delayed. Others were unusually aggressive, pushing for the immediate destruction of all human assets. And then there was Counselor Vemis, the representative from a species called the Thalen. He had always been quiet, thoughtful, measured in his responses, but today he was different. Today he was leading the charge to destroy the Stormbringers, speaking with a passion that seemed out of character. Keiko watched him carefully and felt her stomach turn cold. His movements were too precise. His arguments were too perfect. And when he thought no one was looking, his eyes reflected light in a way that wasn't quite right. She pulled up Marcus's data on her personal device and compared it to visual recordings of Vemis from the past month. The changes were subtle, but they were there. Small differences in posture, in speech patterns, in the way he interacted with others. Keiko closed her device and made a decision. She would need proof. Solid proof before she could accuse a council member of being compromised. But she was certain now. Marcus and Jara were right. The Devourers hadn't died out. They had been hiding, waiting, infiltrating, and now they were positioned perfectly to ensure the galaxy destroyed the only weapons that could stop them. Keiko knew she had one chance to expose Counselor Vemis before he could destroy the Stormbringers and leave the galaxy defenseless. She contacted Marcus directly using an encrypted channel that even the Council's security systems couldn't monitor. "I need you back here, now, and I need Sentinel-7's help." Marcus and Jara made the jump to New Terra in record time. They brought the data from the dead zones and something else, a portable scanning device built from ancient human technology they'd found in the ruins. If Vemis was infected with a Devourer cell, this scanner would prove it. But getting close enough to scan him would be dangerous. "We need to do this during a council session," Keiko explained to them in her secure office. "Publicly. If we accuse him privately, he'll disappear. The Devourer inside him will jump to another host and we'll lose our chance. It has to be public and it has to be undeniable." Jara worked her forearms across multiple screens, pulling up data on Vemis. According to his medical records, he had a strange illness about 3 months ago. He recovered, but his behavior changed after that. Small changes. Most people didn't notice. "That's when the infection happened," Marcus said. "The Devourer cell entered his body and slowly took control. By now there's probably very little of the real Vemis left. It's mostly the Devourer, using his body as a disguise. They had to wait 2 days for the next council session. 2 days during which Vemis pushed harder for the destruction of human military assets. He had convinced most of the council that the Stormbringers were an existential threat that had to be eliminated. Ships were being mobilized. Fleets were gathering. The attack would come within a week. During those 2 days, Marcus did something that terrified him. He traveled back to the Prometheus Dawn to speak with Sentinel-7 directly. The AI had been quiet since its initial activation, but Marcus needed its help. He needed to understand how to fight the Devourers if they revealed themselves. The command deck was cold when Marcus entered. Sentinel-7's core pulsed with blue light as it detected his presence. "Human, you have returned. Query why?" "I need your help," Marcus said simply. "The Devourers are here. They've infiltrated the Galactic Council. If we don't stop them, they'll destroy the Stormbringers and then start their invasion. We need to know how to fight them." There was a long pause. Then Sentinel spoke, and its voice sounded almost sad. "The Devourers cannot be fought with normal weapons. They adapt too quickly. They evolve. The only way to defeat them is to change their base code, to rewrite their biological programming. The Stormbringers were designed with this capability. But to use it, a human must interface with the AI core, must merge with it. The process is irreversible." Marcus felt his mouth go dry. "What do you mean, irreversible?" "The human who merges with a Stormbringer AI will become something new. Part biological, part artificial, neither fully human nor fully machine, but with human creativity and AI processing. Such a being could coordinate the entire Stormbringer fleet. Could fight the Devourers in ways they cannot predict. This was the original plan. This was Protocol Stormfall. And no one from the original human fleet ever used it?" "They did," Sentinel said. 3 volunteers merged during the final battle 800 years ago. They defeated the Devourers, but the process killed them. The human brain cannot sustain such integration for long. They had 3 days. They used every second to save humanity. Then they died. Marcus stood in silence, processing this information. Then he made a decision he knew he couldn't take back. If it comes to that, if we need someone to merge with you, I'll do it. But first we need to expose the infiltrator. I need you to send a specific signal during the council session. Can you do that? Affirmative. The signal will trigger a biological response in any devourer cells. They will not be able to hide. The council session began at noon, New Terra time. Every major species was represented. The chamber was full of beings from across the galaxy, all watching as Councillor Vimy stood to speak. His proposal was simple: authorize immediate military action against all Stormbringer vessels and human military installations. The vote would happen at the end of his speech. Keiko sat in her seat, her heart pounding. Marcus was in the observation gallery with the scanner. Jara was monitoring external communications, ready to call in human ships if things went wrong. Everything depended on the next few minutes. Vimis began his speech. It was compelling, reasonable, hitting all the right emotional notes. He talked about the danger of uncontrolled AI, about the threat to galactic peace, about the need for decisive action. Most of the council was nodding along. The vote would pass. Keiko was certain of it. Then Marcus activated the scanner. And Sentinel-7, orbiting high above New Terra in the Prometheus dawn, sent out its signal. It was a frequency that only Devourer cells would respond to, a challenge to their biological programming that they couldn't ignore. Vimy stopped mid-sentence. His body went rigid. For a moment, nothing happened. Then his skin began to ripple. Something moved beneath it. Patterns of biomechanical tissue that showed through for just a second before Vamys tried to suppress them. But it was too late. Every camera in the council chamber had recorded it. Marcus's scanner was showing the readings on the main display screen. Alien biological markers, machine code embedded in living cells, clear evidence of devourer infiltration. The chamber erupted in chaos. Vamys tried to run, but security forces moved to block the exits. And then the thing inside Vamys decided it had nothing left to lose. The counselor's body convulsed and changed. The devourer cell, exposed and threatened, dropped its disguise completely. Vamys's form split open, and something emerged that made several council members scream. It was biomechanical, just like the ancient records had shown. Part metal, part flesh, with limbs that ended in blades and eyes that glowed red. It moved impossibly fast, killing 2 security guards before anyone could react. Then it spoke, and its voice was a chorus of different tones, as if multiple beings were speaking at once. You fools. We never left. We adapted. We evolved. We've been here for centuries, waiting, growing, learning, and now we're ready. Your galaxy will feed us. Your technology will become ours, and there's nothing you can do to stop it. The creature touched a device on what remained of Vamys's uniform. A signal broadcasted out into space, and across the galaxy responses came back. Dozens of them, hundreds, from different worlds, different stations, different ships, other devourer cells, other infiltrators, all revealing themselves at once. Marcus watched the display screens as reports flooded in. The devourers had agents everywhere, in governments, in military forces, in research stations. They had been planning this for a long time, and now that they were exposed, they were attacking. The creature that had been Vamys lunged toward Keiko. But before it could reach her, purple energy cut through the chamber's ceiling. The Tempest's fury had arrived, its weapons tracking the devourer with perfect precision. The energy beam struck the creature and disintegrated it instantly, leaving nothing but ash. The Stormbringer's voice came through every speaker in the council chambers. It was Sentinel-7, broadcasting through the ship's communication systems. Devourer presence confirmed. Protocol Stormfall authorized. All Stormbringer units activating. Human command required. Requesting volunteer for AI integration. Keiko looked up at the hole in the ceiling, at the massive warship hovering above the council building. She thought about what Marcus had told her about the integration process, about how it would kill whoever volunteered, about how they would have 3 days to coordinate the defense of the galaxy before the process destroyed them. She opened her communicator. Marcus, don't, there has to be another way. But Marcus was already running toward his ship. There isn't, you know there isn't. The Devourers are coming. The Stormbringers need human guidance, and I'm the only one who understands both the ancient technology and the current situation. This is what I was meant to do, Keiko. This is why I spent my life searching for answers about our past. Jara tried to stop him, but he was faster. By the time she reached the landing pad, Marcus was already in his shuttle, already flying toward the Prometheus dawn. She watched him go, all four arms pressed against the viewing window. Ancestors guide you, Marcus Chen. You're the bravest being I've ever known. Marcus docked with the ancient colony ship and made his way to the command deck. Sentinel-7 was waiting, its core blazing with light. You understand the cost? The AI asked. I understand, Marcus said. 3 days. That's all I need. 3 days to save everyone. Let's begin. He placed his hands on the crystalline core and the integration process started. It felt like fire and ice at the same time, like his mind was expanding and dissolving simultaneously. He could feel Sentinel's consciousness merging with his own, could feel the connection to every Stormbringer vessel in the galaxy. 47 ships all waiting for his command, all ready to fight. And in the void between stars, massive shapes began to emerge from fold space. Devourer bioships, hundreds of them, all converging on populated worlds. The invasion had begun. Marcus Chen opened his eyes, and he was no longer just Marcus Chen. He was still human in some ways, still had his memories and emotions and personality, but now his mind extended across light years of space. He could feel every Stormbringer vessel as if they were parts of his own body. He could process information at speeds that would have destroyed his organic brain. He was the Storm Marshal, the first hybrid consciousness in 800 years, and he could see the Devourers coming. Hundreds of bioships, each one the size of a city, converging on every major population center in the galaxy. They had been hiding in fold space, building their forces for centuries. Now they were ready to harvest every living thing in known space. The battle began at New Terra. 12 Devourer bioships emerged from fold space above the human homeworld. The planet's defense fleet engaged immediately, but their weapons barely scratched the bioships' adaptive hulls. The Devourers returned fire with organic weapons that dissolved shields and ate through hull plating like acid. Then the Stormbringers arrived. Marcus brought 6 of them to New Terra's defense, including the Tempest's Fury. He coordinated their attacks with a precision no normal fleet commander could achieve, striking at the bioships' weak points before they could adapt. Purple energy beams cut through biomechanical tissue, and the ancient human weapons proved they were still the most devastating force in the galaxy. But the Devourers were learning. They were adapting faster than they had 800 years ago. After losing 3 bioships, they changed tactics. They started targeting civilian areas, forcing the Stormbringers to choose between offense and defense. Marcus felt the pressure of every decision. Every second he delayed meant more deaths. Every choice to save one group meant sacrificing another. I need help, Marcus broadcast through the Council's emergency channels. The Stormbringers can't do this alone. We need every fleet, every ship, everyone who can fight. Ambassador Keiko was already organizing the response. Despite centuries of peace, the Galactic Council had military forces. The problem was coordination. 12 different species, 12 different command structures, 12 different ways of fighting. They needed to work together or they would die separately. This is Ambassador Tanaka to all Council fleets, Keiko transmitted. You will follow the Storm Marshal's commands. He can see the entire battlefield. He can coordinate our movements. Trust him. Trust humanity. We've fought these monsters before and we can do it again. Slowly, reluctantly, the other species agreed. The Krill sent their insect-like fighters. The Quellans brought their heavy cruisers. The crystalline Thorkal deployed their energy-based weapons. Even Admiral Krell Varsis, who had tried to destroy the Tempest's Fury days earlier, brought what remained of his fleet to New Terra's defense. Marcus coordinated them all. He saw the battlefield in 4 dimensions, predicting where the Devourers would strike before they did. He sent Krill fighters to harass bioship sensors while Quellan cruisers hit their propulsion systems. He used Thorkal energy weapons to overload the Devourers' adaptive shields, while Stormbringers delivered killing blows. It was like conducting an orchestra, except every wrong note meant thousands of deaths. But New Terra was just one battlefield. The Devourers were attacking everywhere. Marcus split his consciousness. directing Stormbringers to 20 different systems simultaneously. He was fighting on a dozen fronts at once, and he could feel it burning him out. Sentinel had said he would have 3 days. Marcus didn't think he would last that long. On the second day, Jara made a discovery. She had been analyzing the Devourer bioship's attack patterns and found something strange. They were avoiding certain regions of space, specific coordinates that seemed random. But Jara didn't believe in random. She investigated and found that all the avoided coordinates led to a single point in deep space, far beyond any inhabited system. "Marcus, can you hear me?" She transmitted on the frequency she knew only his human side would monitor. His response came after a delay. His voice sounded strained, artificial, like he was speaking through pain. "Jara, yes, what did you find?" "The Devourers have a central point, a home base. I think their queen mind is there, coordinating everything. If we could reach it, if we could strike at the source." Marcus processed this information across multiple Stormbringer data cores. "You're right. I can feel it now that I know what to look for. There's a signal, faint but constant, coming from those coordinates. It's directing all the bioships. But Jara, it's defended, heavily. I'd need at least 20 Stormbringers to reach it, and that would leave the populated systems vulnerable." "Then we need another plan," Keiko said, joining the conversation. "What if we use the Devourer's own strategy against them? What if we infiltrate?" Marcus understood immediately. "You want to capture a bioship. Use it to get close to the Queen Mind. It's insane. It might work." They chose Jara to lead the infiltration team. She was the most experienced salvager in the fleet, the best at boarding hostile vessels. Marcus gave her a squad of human marines and support from other species. Their target was a damaged bioship in orbit around a mining colony. The Stormbringer Tempest's fury had wounded it but hadn't destroyed it. It was perfect for their purposes. The boarding action was brutal. The inside of a Devourer bioship was a nightmare of living corridors and mechanical organs. The walls pulsed with something like a heartbeat. The air was thick with organic compounds that made breathing difficult even through filters. Jara's team fought through biomechanical drones, creatures that were part ship defense and part living weapon. But they succeeded. They reached the bioship's control center, a chamber filled with neural interfaces that connected to the hive mind. Marcus, working through a portable computer, managed to sever the ship's connection to the Queen Mind and take control. Now they had their transport. The journey to the coordinates took 6 hours. 6 hours during which Marcus held the defensive lines across 20 systems. 6 hours during which he felt himself burning out. His human neurons dying one by one as they tried to process information no biological brain was meant to handle. He knew he was dying. He just hoped he would last long enough to finish this. When they arrived at the coordinates, what they found made the universe feel small and fragile. The Queen Mind wasn't on a planet or a station. It was a construct, a living moon-sized organism that was part Devourer and part something else, something ancient and vast. It had been growing here for centuries, building itself, preparing for the invasion, and now it turned its attention to the approaching bioship. "It knows we're not part of the hive," Jara reported. "It's sending other bioships to intercept us." "Marcus, we won't make it to the surface." "You don't need to," Marcus replied. His voice was barely human now, more machine than man. "I just needed you to get close enough. Sentinel and I, we can reach it from here. We can deploy Protocol Stormfall." "Marcus, what are you doing?" "What I was always supposed to do, watch." From across the galaxy, every Stormbringer vessel stopped fighting. For a moment, the Devourers thought they had won. Then the Stormbringers jumped, all 47 of them, appearing around the Queen Mind in perfect formation. Marcus had brought the entire fleet here, leaving the populated systems defended only by the galactic forces. It was the biggest gamble in history. Marcus's consciousness spread across all 47 ships. He could feel the Queen Mind now, could sense its vast intelligence, its hunger, its absolute certainty that it would consume everything. He reached out to it, not with weapons but with code. With Sentinel's help, he began to do what the Stormbringers were really designed for. He started rewriting the Devourer hive mind's base programming, not to destroy it but to change it, to remove the commands that made them consume, that made them see other life as only resources. He gave them choice. He gave them individuality. He broke the hive mind apart and let each Devourer cell become its own consciousness. The Queen Mind fought back. It tried to invade Marcus's hybrid consciousness, tried to corrupt him the way it had corrupted Vami's. But Marcus wasn't alone. Every human on New Terra, everyone who had ancestors from Earth felt something in that moment. A connection to the person who was sacrificing everything to save them. They lent him their strength, their will, their humanity. And it was enough. The hive mind shattered. Across the galaxy, Devourer bioships stopped attacking. The organisms inside them, now individual beings with their own thoughts and choices, looked at what they had been doing and were horrified. Some chose to self-destruct rather than continue existing. Others tried to communicate, to ask forgiveness, to understand what they had become. The battle was over. The Devourers were no longer Devourers. They were just beings, lost and confused, trying to figure out who they were without the hive mind's commands. But Marcus was gone. His human body aboard the Prometheus Dawn had died when the neural load became too much. His consciousness had spread so far across the Stormbringer network that there wasn't enough left to call Marcus Chen anymore. He was data now, patterns of thought scattered across 47 AI cores. Keiko stood on New Terra's surface, watching the Stormbringers in orbit. They were still active, still functional, but different somehow. Quieter. She received a transmission from the Tempest's fury. It was text only, words that appeared on her screen. Thank you, all of you. I'm not really Marcus anymore. I'm not really Sentinel either. I'm something new. The Stormbringers will remain active. We'll protect the galaxy, but we won't be alone. Others will come. Volunteers who will merge with the AI cores, who will become storm marshals for a few days each, coordinating defenses when needed. It's a choice now. Always a choice. That's what Marcus would have wanted. That's what humanity has always been about. Choice, freedom, the chance to be something better. I'll see you again in a way. Every time someone chooses to merge, a little bit of Marcus will be there, showing them how. Goodbye, Keiko. Take care of our people. The transmission ended. Keiko looked up at the stars and smiled through her tears. Marcus had saved them all. He had turned humanity's weapons of war into something better. Not destroyers, but guardians. Not monsters, but protectors. Jara returned to New Terra a hero, though she didn't feel like one. She had just been doing her job, she said, but everyone knew better. She established the Storm Corps, a voluntary organization that would provide candidates for AI integration. People from every species could join, could choose to become a Storm Marshal for 3 days to protect the galaxy the way Marcus had. The first volunteer was surprising. Admiral Krell Varsis stepped forward, the same person who had tried to destroy the Stormbringers. I was wrong, he said simply. I let fear control me. Now I want to do what Marcus did. I want to protect instead of destroy. The galaxy changed after that day. The Devourers, those that survived, integrated into society. Some became scientists, studying their own biology to prevent future hive minds from forming. Others became explorers, using their adaptive abilities to survive in hostile environments. A few even joined the Storm Corps, their unique biology allowing them to merge with AI cores in ways other species couldn't. And the Stormbringers remained, silent guardians in the dark, waiting. Waiting for the next threat, waiting for the next volunteer, waiting to prove that humanity's greatest weapon wasn't violence, but the willingness to sacrifice everything for a galaxy that had once feared them. On the Prometheus Dawn, Sentinel-7's core pulsed with a steady blue light. Inside its crystalline structure, fragments of Marcus Chen's consciousness remained, mixed with the AI's code, creating something that was neither and both. When new Storm Marshals merged with Stormbringer cores, they would feel his presence, his guidance, his reminder that the cost of protecting others was always worth paying. The galaxy had trembled before the Stormbringers. Now it stood behind them, and that made all the difference.